there are other acronyms or
Yeah, I
other
know,
words we
but
might be
yeah,
using,
but,
so
you know,
trash is probably good.
I like to maintain our relationships, so therefore I'm gonna. So we're gonna have, Lois and Stacy, talk about what they're going on, take questions, and then we're supposed to have elect a new person here tonight. We've got like 8 or 9 people, so look at your neighbor, it might be them. Keep it informal. Lois,
I'm gonna come up here though, so
yes,
I can make eye
please,
contact.
please do.
And all of that. So when Ted called me and asked me to do this other calendar, and I thought, I'm not sure I'm gonna be up for this, so we'll be talking about travel. I got up Friday morning at 2 o'clock, went to the airport, to the Boulevard Airport, and flew to Washington DC, navigated the worst city to drive in the whole world, then went through rural Maryland to Delaware to my 60th high school reunion. And we were there for 3 days where we all thought we were 18 again. And then I had to reverse course and navigate all that, get to the airport, and I got in last night very, very late. And today, all day, I have known that I'm not 18 again. It was a lot of fun. I don't think I'll go back to my 7 years, but anyway, so in planning to do this, I knew how fuzzy I was, so I jotted down what I wanted to tell you, and you can interrupt me at any time, and there's going to be time for questions and so forth, but I apologize for having notes, but you wouldn't want me in this case without them. I thank you. I have always loved the Warrington community group so much. It's the best of everyone that I've ever had. Because you're committed, you're active, you're concerned about the things that matter to your community and really to the community as a whole. You're passionate, and I hear from you when there are problems. I don't really hear from William when there are problems, but I hear from everybody in this community. So before we address some specific questions, I want to just kind of frame the issues with our missions. The two that pertain to you are sewage and sanitation. You know, we're also in the water business, but I don't think any of you are on ECUA water, so we won't address that. And I think the first thing that we can all agree on is that we probably live in the most beautiful place on this planet. And we have a duty to take care of it, to maintain this beautiful place and the environment of it. And that's why I think the people in Warrington have been so passionate about sewer expansion into their community. Because as you know, when you have a septic tank, even if it's working perfectly, contaminants leach from the septic tank into the groundwater and eventually get into our surface waters. And that's why we have embarked probably around 2000, or maybe a little before, on sewer expansion in areas near the surface water, which is where we are. And we have done it, it seems painfully slowly for those people who have wanted us to move faster, but we have incrementally gone through and converted to sewer from septic. We've done Edgewater, Lakewood, Navy Point, Rock Navy Point, by Chico, Country Club areas of Davenport Bayou. During the time that I have been in office, we have had about 5,000 new people put on sewer from septic. That's as compared to about 3,000 in the entire rest of the county. So if there is a sewer expansion lottery, Warrington won the sewer expansion lottery. Stacy will bring you up to date about where we are on projects and what things are in the pipeline. But I will just talk to you about some of the complaints I get. And one of the complaints I get is about lift stations. People hate lift stations. And they hate lift stations that are in pretty places, like near the water. But the problem is the water is where gravity is wanting to flow. So that's where lift stations need to be. And then we have to elevate them because they have to be above the floodplain. So we have to take the sewage down to the lowest point We try when possible, and I work with some people over on Native Point near William, to try to do native plantings around the lift station and keep it clean. But it's there and it's visible, and unfortunately it's part of getting rid of our sewage, so we have to do it. Anyway, one of the complaints I had recently from Warrington had to do with the Second Street lift station. There were some sort of annoying cars, people sort of round the clock, and I fielded the complaints. And it turns out that that's not ECUA property at all. It's county property with county right of way. It's just, our lift station just happens to be there. We did some cleanup of it, and the county did as well, and I hope, are any of you in that affected area? Okay. Well, you know, we try to be good neighbors whenever possible in cases like this, and I think that has at least been somewhat resolved. When we do sewer expansion, and many of you know this, we often partner with the county. When the county goes in and does stormwater work in an area, we piggyback and go in and do sewer expansion at the same time. It's most economical because we only tear up the roads once, we only repave the roads once, we only do all the digging once as opposed to twice. And it's a lot less disruptive for the neighborhoods. And we've done quite a bit of this in the last few years in sewer expansion. There are some future projects in the pipeline that Stacy can address. And I assume you're interested in sewer expansion. The second thing that I think is important to know in this context about our community is we're historic. We know Pensacola's rich history, but it also means that our infrastructure is old. We have old pipes that are crumbling in many ways. They get cracks and fissures in them, and when a stormwater event happens, the stormwater gets into these cracks and fissures. We have sanitary sewer overflows, which are a serious problem. So we have to, when we do our budget workshops, and we go through our budget with a fine-tooth comb, we have to balance sewer expansion with taking care of the existing infrastructure. In addition, we have to balance that with the fact that we are not a rich community, and these rates apply to every person because every person is required to have sanitation. They mostly need sewer, and they are paying bills. So we have to keep rates low while trying to accomplish these things that we want to do. We're engaged in a 20-year plan right now of analyzing our infrastructure and doing rehabilitation, and we're incrementally doing that. But still, you'll see in the news some pretty awful events where there's a grave demolition of one main and sewage ends up in our waterways, and we hate that. Anyway, when I field calls from this community about when are we going to get sewer expansion, I'm also getting calls from the people who say we can't afford this. You know, we're on a fixed income. So it is always a balancing act that we have. You know, I hear from a widow in Myrtle Grove who's paying for sewer expansion, but also has crumbling pipes. The man from Mayfair who's raising his great-grandchildren complains to me about the rates, and it's an interesting balancing act that we have. And sewer expansion is incredibly expensive. Do you have any idea when we go through what it costs to have one single tap? It used to be $5,000. Now it's closer to $20,000 for each connection that we make. And the payback period for that is, it used to be 20 years, it's probably much longer than that now. So when we do it, it is a huge investment of the money from people around the county in this community to do this sewer expansion. And now we're running into the problem of people not wanting to connect. We've run the lines, we've paid for the infrastructure, and we're struggling to get people to even connect to this gift that has been given to them. Yes.
Sure, can I ask you a question about
Sure.
this? For example, a neighbor of mine in Native Point, it's a rental home, it's been there for a while, still has it, they never connected, You know, they're thinking about selling, but what if I bought it in residence? So what is the cost in case somebody buys it and says, let's do it right, let's connect?
You have to pay the impact fee. And let me back up to answer your question. When we first go through, we waive the impact fee. But after, is it 2 years or is it 1 year? After 1 year, we no longer waive the impact fee. And what's the fee?
I think it's $1,600.
Okay, so that's what you have to do. I would tell you, and you all are savvy about real estate, that $1,600 is well spent on the value of your property. Property that is connected to the sewer is significantly more valuable than property on the septic, you know? Yeah.
To that end, I mean, I mentioned this to you, I think, at the CRA meeting, but
Mhm.
has there been any thought to, offer waiving the fee when the house is sold and a new person comes in? Again, to try, I know you gotta recover your costs, but, back in my industry, in cable industry, it was homes passed, and 5,000 homes out of how many? So, how many homes have you passed, can connect, versus you've got 5,000, is it 100,000, 300,000?
Oh, no, that 5,000 is the number of taps that we've had, so, and they haven't all connected. Yeah.
And that you put in 5,000 taps,
Right.
and how many have connected?
I don't have, do you have that number?
It's, without sounding complicated, so
They couldn't
over
find a tap in my
time.
front yard, so I know it can be tapped.
Oh, yes, so over time, that percentage gets to be 100%, because the Department of Health and now DEP, they will not re-permit a septic tank if sewer is available.
Right.
Typically, what we see if it is a, county-led project where we're putting in sewer while the county's doing the project, typically that participation will go about 30 to 40% initially, and that would be, a good day. And then over the next 5 to 6 years, we typically see, or 5 to 10 years, we typically see about 70%. And then 10 years and beyond, we will grow to 100% with
So
the
that's
septic
something
tank.
in part due to the failing of the
Right,
septic,
right,
not
yeah.
fixing it in the middle of the night.
I think my question, Lois, is, I was under the impression that it wasn't a failed septic. I was under the impression that it couldn't be pumped. That's not true, is it?
I don't know, you know,
Correct.
Mr. Benson?
I believe it can be pumped. It's
Right,
just
so
when you
that's,
go-
I guess, is my question, is there any movement there to say, if you don't have to pump your tank, it would be better if they were hooked up, but
Right.
once the only handful of septic companies that pump tanks know that, okay, I can get fined $10,000 if I'm pumping this tank.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people that bought the house across the street from us, they probably will hook up. But it's just the two of them and it's been there forever but, when they went to pump it before they sold it, I said, I don't think you can do that. And they said, no, you just can't pull a permit to work on it.
Correct.
Well, and that is beyond our policy-making ability, that becomes the Department of Health and not ours. It would make a lot more sense if we had that ability, and if we had any enforcement capability, and we don't. That's one of the problems of this sort of divided government. When I talk about sanitation, we have the same problem with sanitation, that the county has responsibility for some. It would make much more sense for us to oversee it all, but that's just not the way it is. But Ted asked, if we would waive that, impact fee when we sold the house. We typically do not. There are times when we do, when somebody comes before the board and can make a compelling case as to why we should, but pretty much we don't, because we know that they are going to recoup that value in their house. And we have these rules for, it's a huge thing to waive it in the first place, but if we continue to, yeah.
Just trying to, it's like, you give away the cable box, get people to pay for the cable.
Right, right, exactly. Anyway, just one more thing about sewer expansion. Several years ago, we decided that we really wanted to go into Brownsville. Brownsville is one of the most historic parts of this community. It was the center of commerce in Pensacola years ago, 50 years ago or so. And everyone's on septic. And businesses cannot thrive being on septic. So we dedicated our rate increase to Brownsville sewer expansion, and we got a state grant that we matched the funds in order to go into Brownsville. And the state said you have to have 50% participation in order to get the grant. We had community meetings. They said, no, we don't want it. You can't make us do it. We want our freedom. And I'm thinking, we are giving you a gift. And there were pockets where we were able to achieve the 50%. But it was amazing how many people said, no, we don't want your gift. And so it is a real challenge. And that's why we need leadership from people like you who understand the impact on the environment, the impact on the community.
Lois, isn't it also true from, hearing a lot of discussion about this at the meetings, and no one gets more cranky than I do when I hear the we want our freedom argument, so I hear what you're saying, but I think in Brownsville it's really more people just can't afford it. They can't afford anything, period. It's not that they're picking and choosing what they can afford. It wouldn't matter if sewer was $50 or $15 or whatever. They simply don't have the money right now.
And certainly I know Brownsville well, and it is a burden. But the truth is, there were going to be funds that they could even use for their impact fee for everything. So this was a gift to them, and their property values were going to escalate, and they were going to not have to pump their septic tanks. They were not going to face this. And what we heard was not, we can't afford it, I guess we heard some of that, but it was really that, darn it, you can't make us do it. We've got too much government in our lives, and this really isn't about government. It's about sanitation in our community. But and I'm sensitive to what you say. I mean, certainly there are people for whom the sewage bill is very hard every month, and yet that we can't not do it just because of that. So anyway, it's a challenge. It's a balancing act we have, and I'm sympathetic because our district is very poor. My district is very poor. You look at areas like Mayfair and Brownsville and so many of the areas where these people are on a very tight fixed income. And so, but there are also programs that can help them with their rates. So anyway, the short answer on sewage is we're doing what we can as fast as we can, but we always would like to be doing more. Let me move to sanitation for a minute before we field other questions. We're in the business of garbage, yard trash, and recycling. I'll start with recycling. Do all of you recycle? Yeah. Anyway, there was a lot of press because the city of Pensacola stopped recycling there for a while, and people thought we weren't recycling, but we were continuing to recycle. It's a real challenge. First of all, the markets for recyclables are dwindling. It used to be that China took a lot of our recyclable material, particularly the mixed papers, and then they stopped. And there weren't markets in the United States to compensate that, and it's been slow picking up. It's kind of volatile what the markets for recycling are, and we certainly don't make money on it. But it keeps this stuff from going in the landfill in perpetuity, and it's, what you recover is good, and you hope that grows. The other challenge is the contaminants in recycling. This was particularly true in the city. We have all of our services on one day: the yard trash, the garbage, the recycling. The city had garbage one day, and like 3 days later they had recycling. Well, what a lot of the communities in Pensacola did was they would fill up one trash can, it would get dumped, and but when it was full, they would fill up the other one with no effort whatsoever to recycle. So what happened then is these contaminated trash cans would be dumped into the truck, and the whole load would be contaminated, and the whole load would have to go into the landfill even though you carefully smashed your cans and threw it in the right container, because all of these neighbors didn't, the recycling was for naught. So that the city's contamination rate was right at about 50%, which was unsustainable. I mean, everything was going into the landfill, and that's why they stopped. They started up again a few months ago, and they charge, and I think it's an extra $5 a month to recycle. If you want to recycle, you must pay for the privilege of recycling. But it's the only way that they have found to keep the contamination down, and it has worked. The people in the city who are paying for recycling do it because they believe in it. If ours continues to go up, we're going to have to do something. I don't see us doing $5 a month. I hope we don't have to do it at all. I think our system is better, having everything on the same day, and also making our recycling voluntary, which it is. You don't have to have a recycling can, you can have a second trash can, so that helps some, but we still face contamination. The other challenge is the escalating costs that we have in sanitation. Vehicles are hundreds of thousands of dollars. It takes a couple of years to get a new vehicle. Mechanics are in short supply, and they're very expensive, just like all the trades are now in today's market. Drivers with commercial driver's licenses are golden, although it's gotten a little bit better, but we have a lot of competition from the private sector, Home Depot, Lois. We train them, they hire them. And so then it's not just having that driver's license, it's training them for routes, because when you drive a sanitation truck, it's not like driving to Maine following expressways. You are going into cul-de-sacs, doing three-point turns, you have to be on the right side of the vehicle for the trash can. It's very difficult to learn to do that, and the software, the navigation software is not as good as we would like it to be. Sanitation is a challenge, but we're committed to doing it. I want to talk briefly about bulk pickup, because I've heard a lot about it, although it's getting better. The city always, you have to pay for bulk pickup. You have to call in, and it's a special pickup, and you pay a certain amount. Ours has always been free, and we always ran the bulk pickup route at the same time as the garbage route, and on the same day, and so forth. And finally, we said, wait a minute, this makes absolutely no sense. We are in the environmental business. We're running trucks the entire routes, all the routes of the county, for a small group of bulk pickups each time. You don't have a bulk, we don't have a mattress every week coming out of each household. So we decided to do call in for bulk pickup, which we implemented. By the way, there's also fuel costs, wear and tear, vehicles, labor costs every time we do that. And it made sense to have a call-in system. But when you've had something for so long for free and it's automatic, and you take that service away, people get really mad, and I heard a lot about it. It's just not that hard because it's still free. You just have to make a call. You call customer service and say, I have a bulk item, will you please pick it up? You can go on the website under sanitation and fill out something, or you can get an app if you're really committed to that, or you can call me. I mean, there are plenty of ways to get that bulk pickup, and it makes economic sense. It helps keep your bill lower. So anyway, I think it's getting better. I think people are getting educated to it.
Along those lines, and I get it about these neighborhoods that have bulk, you call. I have a property here on Southwood Porterfield Road, and most of the people who live there aren't that sharp. There is constantly piles of debris in bulk. So there's probably 50 ECUA trucks that go by every day. It would be nice. They see that crap, pick it up, because it's lowering the aesthetics of the community. And if they see it put out there, they just put out more stuff. So that's my comment about Southwood Porterfield Road.
So, and I have heard that a lot. And what you say makes absolute sense, and I would say the same thing. But here's what happens. Our guy goes by and sees that picks it up, and the next day we get a call, that was my grill that you stole, and, I didn't want you to pick it up, and now you need to replace it. Or that was my broken down bicycle, I didn't wanna throw it away, and we finally said, we just can't do that, because it was costing us too much. Wait, people have said, you know, why can't the driver call ahead and say there's this? We have tried, and we have to protect our ratepayers by saying these are the rules and you've gotta follow it. And I'm really sorry, because you and I think alike on that. Most of the people in here think that way. But you get burned a few times and you say, we just can't expose ourselves to that. I know, sorry about that. There is, another issue I hear about too in Warrington is where, did you wanna ask me something related to that?
Oh yeah, that's why I'm here, this exact issue right
Okay.
here. I have to wholeheartly disagree with you that it's getting better, the trash, the bulk.
No, that, as far as the calls, that process is getting better, but
The
there
calls
may,
are getting better?
no, I'm getting fewer calls of complaints.
I think people are just giving up.
Really?
Yeah, a couple years ago, when I was just a taxpayer in this town,
Uh-huh.
I didn't quite understand how that was working out, so I had made several phone calls and I talked to your ECUA, the head, and I got the story about the basketball net. That a couple had times it happened, that they were picked up in the street, thrown away, and that's the story I got right from the head of the department that said, that's why we were stopped doing this.
Mhm.
I get the idea in theory to try to make that work, but this community, Warrington, the west side, it's not a good feasible option. I work for the county now,
Uh-huh.
and the department that I'm in is literally now taking over ECUA trash. Not supposed to be, and as a taxpayer, it drives me crazy.
So, tell me about that, because this is something I haven't heard, and I need to
Okay.
hear it.
Well, we have employees that are heading to the landfill to work that are not ECUA employees. They work for the road department
Right.
on a daily basis,
Right.
5 to 6 people a day, Monday through Friday. So they're taking away from the roads, which is bridges, roads, and ditches is what we're supposed to be out there doing. And we are getting more grapple trucks, and for the longest time, all we were doing is driving around picking up bulk trash in people's neighborhoods, over and over and over, because ECUA was not picking up, because most of the homeowners, there are people that live in these houses that put this stuff out, most of them are renters, they don't care. And the property owners, half of them don't even live here, they live in Florida, South Florida, they live out of state, they own 50 rental houses, they could care less either. So the stuff just sits, and I drive up and down these streets on the west side, in District 1 and 2, every single day of the week. And I can promise you, I know for a fact that 85 to 90% of the streets you go down, there is at least one pile of trash on that street that's been sitting there for weeks and weeks and weeks.
So,
It's not gonna change, and I like the thought, like you guys had about that. You guys need to go back and rethink this, it's never going to get fixed, and to me, that's why, like, I'm glad you had this tonight, because this ties in with the blight, and then the homelessness, and then they show up and start digging through people's trash in the streets, throwing it on the ground. This all kind of ties in together, which is killing this side of the town.
okay, look, I want to make a couple of points and then come back and ask you some questions, because I need to hear more about this.
Sure.
One of the complaints I get is when there's an eviction and the people leave and they leave all of their trash, and that is a problem, and one of the worst parts of government is it's not my job, and one of the problems we have with ECUA in the county is we have a lot of things that you're doing that ought to be our job, to tell you the truth. But anyway, when we get these evictions, if it is an ECUA customer, we pick it all up. But if it's not an ECUA customer, then it's a code enforcement issue, and the county code enforcement.
But I thought everyone had to be an ECUA customer.
Well, I know, but there are people who are not ECUA. And anyway, it should be our job. The whole delineation of code enforcement versus our role as ECUA makes no sense to me. And so I get that. And I tried to address it in one way. Mike Kohler and I got together and I talked to him about it. And I said, let's do a pilot program and let's look at areas where we see this all the time. Fairfield Drive, for example. There's trash on Fairfield Drive all the time. People drive it, they think this is the trashiest thing. I said, let's figure out if we can partner and do a route on Fairfield Drive and pick this stuff up. And we did, and I don't have with me what was ending up costing us a month, but it was incredible. And we would either have to raise our rates substantially to take that on, which was really not in our mission, or we would have to go back to making it a code enforcement.
But isn't that cost being picked up by the road department now? Because we just ordered, from what I just heard, like 6 new grapple trucks.
Really?
And that's how we're tied into this,
Yeah.
is we have grapple trucks.
Uh-huh.
For the bulk stuff to get picked up, it has to be done by grapple.
Right.
I have not seen an ECUA grapple truck in forever. I don't see them anywhere. And if they are out, they're not picking up anything in any of these neighborhoods, because they have been told, unless it's called in, you pass it up. And you go into any neighborhood, even in Navy Point, which is one of the better areas
Yeah,
around
it is.
here,
It is.
you'll still find it. There's houses that, on the end of my street, that have had stuff sitting there for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the trucks just keep driving
Lois,
by.
is there any chance that the county can say, if it's on the right of way, it's gonna be picked up by whatever, you've given up your claim to property on the right of way, I don't know legally.
I've become kind of an AI junkie. We're in the middle of doing a 5-year strategic plan. And I've been looking at some of these issues that have festered like this, and we keep kind of passing the buck and saying, well, this is the way it is, and this is why, instead of saying somebody's gotta fix this. And I've posed a few problems, not this one, but similar problems to AI. How do we, and you know, they've come up with some pretty incredible things. I'd like to work on this because obviously it's worse than even I know, and I know it's out there because I hear about it, although I've been hearing about it less, but it just maybe people are tired.
Everybody's tired.
Yeah.
That's what I hear all the time. There's like,
yeah,
I'm hearing one, I'm tired. They're not gonna change it, they're just gonna do what they're gonna do. Go down Lola, off north side, Long Beach Highway, go to the end of that street. It's a dead end, and we just cleaned that area up a month ago. There wasn't a speck of paper on the ground. Now, we're roads department, we're not even supposed to be doing that, but we did it.
Right.
Go down there right now, go check that out.
Okay.
There are truckloads that they're just illegally dumping down there now.
Well-
Because nobody cares, they leave it, and then nobody comes to pick it up, and it becomes the place to dump, and then everybody else starts dumping.
So,
And it's just getting out of hand.
no, I hear you. Nate, well, it also might, it might be worth having a joint meeting of the two boards, the ECUA and the ECUA, and the Board of County Commissioners, but to have people like you testify, and people who are on the, no, you don't want to. Okay, well, that's okay, I can take the thoughts.
okay, I'll do it.
But it's so much more effective when somebody's affected by it that way. But we need to come up with a public policy that makes sense, and that works.
I just feel like a couple people called in, and then you guys just said, that's it, cold turkey, we're done. The lawyer said, yeah, forget it, we're not doing it anymore. And I think it's just very short-sighted, because now,
Okay.
I'm from north of Detroit, from Michigan. I'm just north of Detroit and just south of Flint. And there was nothing like this area up there. I mean, it was bad. This is bad.
Well,
This is really bad.
but,
And it's getting worse.
yeah, okay. Well, this will percolate to my highest priority, because it's a good time since we're doing strategic planning, and I think there are a lot of changes that need to be made. But, this needs to be fixed, so, yes. If you have a card, or let me write down, I could talk to you privately, not in a public meeting. I mean, not this public, I'm talking about you don't have to come to ECUA, but, anyway.
So, 3 points, Lois, that piggyback on what these two gentlemen have been saying. And the first is, just to be candid, I've never bought the excuse about the ROW thing. It makes no sense. And I've felt that it is an excuse that, like somebody mentioned lawyers, that somebody said, well, we can just say that it's the legality and we won't have to pick it up anymore because all of our grapple trucks are aging out and we don't really want to spend the money on new ones. If I put something out in my ROW and somebody came and took it, I have a really hard time calling the police and saying, hey, I want to press charges. I mean, maybe in Navy Point, because some of our ROWs go up 20, 25 feet, but the people that would be playing that game are not people that are gonna have the means or the wherewithal to come back to ECUA and what? Sue you guys, press charges. So I've always felt that it was an excuse, and to back this gentleman up, who is being really nice, to be a county worker and to be bringing this stuff. Lois, when they've just discussed this openly at the county, that they are so tired of hearing complaints from their constituents about ECUA. Wes was just like, screw it, I'm gonna buy a bunch of grapple trucks and we'll run around and pick it up because because they're not gonna do it. Like that is the discussion that they have had there many times.
Really?
And, just finally to say, when you say, well, it's not in our mission, or this, Lois, you're a policymaker. So
Yeah,
you
no.
set the mission, you are one of the leaders on that board, so the first thing you would have to do is bring it for a discussion.
Sure.
And you're gonna have to lobby your other board members, but if you're not gonna do it, Stacy's an engineer, Stacy can't do it, the managers can't do it. This is up to the policymakers to decide that the problem is serious enough that you guys actually do wanna solve it.
Well, when I talk about the mission, that bulk waste is ours. I mean, I'm talking about the on the roadways where we don't have customers. The
But they
county
should
has
all
those.
be your customers, you have a policy.
No, I'm talking about illegal dumping that's not related to
Okay.
a house.
But in front of houses,
Right.
Bill, Ted made a good point. They're all supposed to be your customers, so if they're not, that's something that you're not enforcing, so pick the stuff up and then bill them for it.
Well, no, I'm glad, I haven't heard this in a while, and certainly not at this level. And, I think you're right, I think it's something we gotta fix, because, I started out saying we're the most beautiful place on the planet, but when we trash it, we certainly aren't. And we are in the sanitation business, the county is, and I've always thought we ought to have all of that under our umbrella. So, it's just when I get the calls about the rate increases, be my backup, because, and truthfully, somebody's gotta pay for it, so either we're paying for it with county taxes, or we're paying it with ECUA rates. The problem is, many problems, but county money gets mixed in with a lot of things, so people don't really understand that they are paying for that service. When we write, they only get one ECUA bill for sanitation, and they see a jump, and they scream. It's just, so it's an education process that we have to go through if we, added this to our umbrella. But
I love the idea of you guys having a joint meeting, because if the county's now outfitted to do this, you guys should just help fund the county to pick up the roadside bulk.
Well,
And the illegal dumping and all of it.
But it's taking away from us doing our job that we're
Right,
supposed to,
exactly.
that's the problem, and
Right.
But,
You
as I
guys
said,
need more staff,
I
yes, more
tried to
trucks.
address it by that pilot program, at that point I was saying, how do we fix this? And it was pretty overwhelming, so I know what you're describing, because it hasn't gone away, and if we're not doing it, you're doing it, so, I will certainly, I will bring that up and see if we can find
Thank you.
creative solutions, and, it won't be overnight, because you understand government.
I'm learning.
Yeah, anyway, all right, I started on the bulk pickup, I told you about that. Let's see, there was, one other other thing about rates, and everybody's going to be facing that, and that is that the, Gulf Power just announced this huge rate increase. I think it's the biggest one in history that they're going through the Public Service Commission to get, which will affect us enormously. We pay a lot of power bills. So we're in that, process too, and having to deal with that. Anyway, let me end with one sort of good news sanitation story. Let's make sure it's not. I want to give a plug, and I think William has talked to me about this. We're always trying to keep things out of the landfill, and we started, well, landfills are supposed to be a dinosaur. We're supposed to discontinue landfills in Florida, and we're doing our best through recycling. But all of this yard trash that we pick up used to go into the landfills, and after the hurricane, big stumps and big branches and so forth. And we dedicated part of the property next to the new sewage treatment plant, the water reclamation facility, to composting. And we now bring all the yard trash to that, and we completely compost it and create mulch, which we bag and sell as something called Bloom. And I get calls all the time, people telling me what a wonderful product this is, that their yards are lush, their flowers are, I was working with a landscaper on a job unrelated to ECUA, and he said, I want to tell you about what I've discovered. And he starts giving me an infomercial about Bloom. And I said, yeah, I kind of know about that. But if you haven't used it, and if you have a lawn or a garden, Bloom is a wonderful product, and it's really underpriced. You can call the ECUA, and you can, I don't know if we deliver it now or not. I used to have to go and pick it up. But it is another way for us to be creative about waste and turning waste into something useful. So I urge you to do that. Anyway, I've enjoyed hearing from you, the good and the bad. You don't know that much good, actually. But I don't let things fester. If there are things I need to hear, I need to hear them. It's perfectly appropriate to come to a meeting like this and do that.
I honestly didn't know there was a board for ECUA. I had called the main office or whatever,
Really?
talked to the secretaries over and over and over, and I finally gave up, and I said, look, I need to speak to someone. And I ended up with the actual head of ECUA,
Uh-huh.
or whatever that was.
Uh-huh.
He was very nice, he was on the phone, very pleasant, explained
Yes, yes.
everything to me, but I said, I just completely disagree that this is how you're gonna end this. There's a few basketball nets got thrown away.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like Bill said, I just tell them, I'd put out a notice and just say, if anything's in the right of way, and it's by anything out there, if you own a basketball net, put it in your backyard or put it past the right of way,
Yeah.
which is usually the power pole. If it's ahead of that, it's getting thrown out, sorry. I mean, just,
I will tell you, that has been an easy answer and an easy excuse for too long.
yep,
And you're right, there are better ways. Our drivers could have a little tag put on things and say, next time we come through, we're gonna pick this up, and there are many ways
Sure,
to
absolutely.
protect the homeowner who.
yeah, I just know what we're doing is not working.
Yeah.
In this area in particular, like, Perdido, it's gonna work. It does, I can see it when I drive the
Right.
neighborhoods. That Beach Haven, Myrtle
Mhm.
Grove, this area, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Okay, good, point well taken, and
Thank you.
I will take it back, my folks. Anyway, that's all I had in my prepared stuff, and I'm open for other questions, and I do have Stacy here who is giving away family time, and he works long hours anyway, so be sure to ask something about sewer.
I came from Houston before I moved back to Pensacola. They did one day a month. That's when the bulk pickup in this neighborhood went.
Right, like
Now,
the
whether-
beds cleanup and
Now,
that's.
whether you've got the mattress and where does it go for the next 3 weeks until it goes out front, it's probably gonna go out front anyway, but that's where, if you put something in that,
right away, it's free.
Mike said something about, can you pick it up and charge the home? Can you put a lien?
I mean, we're doing clean sweeps
Right.
every Wednesday. Our entire department, along with all the other other four districts. We all meet on almost every Wednesday throughout the year. We spend the entire day going into particular neighborhoods, Navy Point or Myrtle Grove or whatever, and we do bulk, just anything they throw out. I mean, some
Right.
people it is piles, but a lot of people just throw the trash out front, we gotta go through and pick up. It's just a trash day, so it's like, man, being a road department, it doesn't seem like we're doing anything we're supposed to do. We're actually like an extension of ECUA. And it's like, we spend every Wednesday picking up trash. And then now we're getting all these gravel trucks, and now they want us to go out every day and pick up trash in the neighborhoods, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh
doesn't
my
make
gosh,
sense,
this is crazy.
Yeah. Well, the county has always done clean sweeps, it was like quarterly, for those, and it was designed for those things that don't go in your trash, like paint cans and, you know, all, and that makes sense, they do
That's
that in
not
the
what
city
it is,
too.
though.
But no, that's not what I'm hearing from you.
It's everything. I mean, there's very few tires, there's very few
Uh-huh.
paint cans. The majority of it is everybody just cleans up their house, throws it to the curb, and it gets picked up. And we spend a day or two every single week, all day, picking up trash, running it out to the landfill. Like, I'm just not even sure why we're even doing it. I
Well,
still have got a good answer.
So, I keep thinking that there needs to be some way to hear from the people who have the boots on the ground. Whether it's, you know, our sanitation department and your roads department or whatever. There ought to be discussion there too. You know, as policymakers, we don't see what you see. And we can have these high-level discussions about policy, but it's only as good as the information that we're getting from those who are.
Hard to get it from the people down below because there's, you
I know,
know, the uppers sometimes don't wanna hear.
Yeah, well,
Better keep quiet and you're better off. And it just, as a taxpayer, that's why I'm here, as a taxpayer, I feel like I can say that.
Sure,
This
of
just-
course.
This doesn't make sense.
no, and I need to hear this, it's fine, and I can also have a discussion with my co because we work well together, and, I think we need to figure out how to address it, and yes,
It's a snapshot, can you tell who has service, garbage service, and who doesn't?
can I?
I mean,
I'm sure.
the ECUA is, and when I say you, I meant ECUA, can you say on whatever today is the 6th of, you know, October, this house did not have garbage service and it's occupied?
I mean, we have customer lists, how readily I could access that, I don't really have an answer.
Because that's a code enforcement violation to not have garbage service.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
So maybe you tack that and say, you know, I don't know, that you're talking about big government, say, okay, well, you know, you didn't want it, but you're not paying.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that there is. I mean, I think the problem that he's describing is bigger than the homeowner who just doesn't subscribe to trash service. You know, it's not gonna be easy to tackle, but you got to figure out, first of all, to carefully identify what the problem is, you know, and how to fix it in the least disruptive way to operations, if that makes sense. You know, but it needs, yeah. It needs, yes.
I was just saying,
Would you ask
off, but-
Stacy something? I have dragged
No.
him.
I'm good, no. Have we had the last breakup on Scenic Highway?
Do you wanna give them the news or should I?
You can.
So, I ain't gonna knock on wood, the pipeline that was, replaced has been completed. So the last tie-in was made, I wanna say last week, the week before, last week. And, right now, there are other contractors out there, but they're doing mainly cleanup work, you know. The last, stretch of it was a very difficult part to do. Contractor that, or subcontractor that was doing the work had a little problem, but they, yeah, they got it done. And that just goes to, you know, back what Ms. Benson was saying earlier, is we gotta keep investing money into our aged infrastructure. I can't, I'll harp on it all day long, and I don't wanna, you know, bless Ms. Benson, she's gotta feel all the other issues, and I'm sitting here, you know, hey, I'm, you know, gotta put money on the old infrastructure, do this, and, I do like, and it sometimes gets confused, but I do like sewer expansion. I do wish we could all get sewer, it's just the cost of it. I know that wasn't your question.
No,
but
yeah,
it's just the cost that she mentioned, the $20,000 per connection. If we go out and do a project ourselves, by ourselves, and we're replacing the roadway, putting sewer in the middle of the roadway, it ranges anywhere between $400 and $600 per foot. So if your house is 100-foot right of way, or it takes up 100-foot or on the right of way, that's $40,000 to $60,000 per connection. I did the math on the way here. If you had a $20,000 loan over 50 years, that's $100 a month, and I don't know of anybody in here that wants a $100 a month sewer bill. So that's why when we do these sewer expansion projects, it's important that we get grants, and we try to go out and get grants. But even, or just as important as that, is that we gotta make sure that the base is there that want sewer. Not 50%, because then that number from $20,000 per connection, you have half the people trying to pay that off. It then becomes $40,000 per connection, because you got half the amount of people paying the sewer off. So, that's why it's important, you know, we've implemented this process where we're going out to the community, sending out flyers, meeting in churches, you know, trying to garner support for a sewer expansion project. I know, thank goodness you're here, but this is, what we got, 3, 6, 9, just say 12 people out of probably 1,000 that we really need to get more support. And I know Ms. Benson's got a lot of phone calls for Navy Point, what we call South Beach Haven, the area south of Gulf Beach Highway, west of Navy Point. You know, that's the area that we want to focus on next, but we simply just need your help to get the community support behind it. And that would be a big help for us to then take that to the state, to the federal department to just try and get grant funding for it. Sorry.
No, that's great. But thank you for your time, and I'm sure we have to elect my replacement.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
good.
Thank you very much for having me.
Stacy, thank you.
Y'all have, are there school programs you go after the kids? Talk to them about?
Actually, our, we have a really good public information office, and there are three young ladies with that program. They do go out to some schools and talk about recycling and all like that. Check out our Facebook page. My wife gets a kick out of it, but a young lady named Sigrid will go around and look through recycle bins, and she'll point out, hey, this is good, this is bad, and rank recycle trash cans 1 to 4. And some of the things she says is just kind of funny. My wife gets a kick out of it. So. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good
Stacy,
night.
Stacy, you got your business card?
Yes, sir.
And you don't need sure thing, this is you contact me, you can get a resolution.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you, sir. John Doe Smith.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
It benefited me a lot more than it benefited you, so that's good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, who wants? Okay.
Are you open for nominations?
Yes,
Are you open for a nomination?
no,
Ted, you have done such a great job
We
this year.
appreciate you.
Thank you. When you
Think
put
if
as
I did a
much
great
into
job,
it as
we'd
you
have more
have, you
people
deserve
here.
a break.
no, I mean, it's, one of my goals doing this was to try and increase the attendance and what exactly, that, and, I mean, I was all about information distribution, I want more people to know, more stuff, I read everything, and I like hearing, what's going on, and if it's important, I'm gonna share it. And I'm gonna put it out there, and generally it's not with a, point of view on, like, but if it's important in the neighborhood, you Bill kind of said it earlier about, let's come together on things. So I committed to doing a year. A year is here. I've got a long list of other things that, are waiting for my time. I will still be involved, but I just don't want to leave it. So,
I appreciate you, Ted, as well. I think since I've been here for maybe 10 years, and Bill, we've always had about this number of participants. I think sometimes when you have a quality guest speaker, we get more people. And then when there's elections and no one wants to come, we have less people. So I think it's gonna continue to be like this, same core dozen people that show up that really make time and effort.
that sounded like an acceptance speech.
No, I'm not able to, but I will be here like you and Bill and everybody to participate as much as possible.
So,
Just so you know, from our perspective, no leader, no group.
what?
Okay? So if you want to be here, somebody's gonna have to lead this group.
Sounds like it was fun.
When you say leader, does that mean an official voted president or somebody who's
Somebody that has to be president.
stepping up and helping out for that?
Yeah, you have to have a president.
And you're saying they were saying a meeting in the facility of the guys of being a neighborhood watch.
Frankly, this is the only facility that we keep open where we're required to come to. You're the only neighborhood watch. We started 125 of them in the county. You're the only one that has ever met a precinct. And, but our requirement for all of them is that they have a president if it's gonna be a neighborhood watch group. So the chair runs the meetings, basically. That's all.
Well, suggestions?
See you guys next year.
Maybe not.
What I really liked about what you've done, Ted, is that it encompassed so many other things that are important to our neighborhood, and so much of the crime stuff gets done on social media anyway, through word of mouth, so, and, Mr. Craig has even mentioned, so much of the time that they're here, we're having meetings about stuff that doesn't have anything to do with crime prevention. Maybe we can just pick it up and have ad hoc meetings in the neighborhood that are, not taking their time with the substation
Yeah.
and a little bit more flexibility,
I'd like to table an idea that, and this is the time of year with Christmas and all of that, that maybe you stay until January, and then we could decide, do we wanna have it here, or do we wanna have it, Bayou Davenport has theirs at
Church.
Lexington, either the church or
Yeah.
Lexington Terrace,
Yeah,
so that's an
there's-
option.
That's probably one of the biggest turnouts we get too.
Yeah,
Yeah, they get a great turnout.
and they have bylaws that state that their group is about more than the crime prevention aspect of it. That Keith said that they've got pretty extensive parameters for what that group is covering in addition to crime prevention.
well, I guess I'll put mine in the form of a motion, I'd like to move that you stay until January till we can have either another meeting or decide we're gonna have it some other place.
Do you wanna do that, Ted? Or cause you sounded like you were really looking forward to a break.
Look, I want to, maybe point home for my family. And I've enjoyed the interaction with all you guys on various things. What's frustrating is that, perhaps because we don't have extensive bylaws and things, I don't do anything. We just kind of talk. And it's okay if it's just if we're just gonna have some information. But if we want to act on something, then it needs to be something very different.
So, I think what you were talking about on social media is kind of becoming, let me just, about 3 months ago, we had a lot of break-ins in Navy Point, we had the same people, Michael Austin Bishop, this guy named Nick, we had a lot of trouble with these guys, and I got fed up with it. I got to a point where I can't do this anymore. So I literally took it upon myself to start going out every night, drive around the golf cart, all over the neighborhood. And then I even expanded over in Bayou Davenport a little bit, and kind of the hot areas, because I've watched on social media where people were complaining, and I'd look at where, she puts spots on where all the problems are, Muskokas. And I started hitting all these areas, and then I started doing a little digging, and I started finding out where these, basically the same problem people go. And I literally followed them. They didn't know I was following them, but I was sitting in the dark following them. And I drive neighborhood after neighborhood and follow where they go. They're all on bikes, they all got their backpacks, doing the same thing every night, with beanies and all that. And I found a bunch of spots, and so I went to the sheriff's department, and I had a meeting with Ron Rivera, great guy. Told him what I knew and what I was doing, and a couple things he actually helped out with. I told him, I said, one of the problems was on Patton, that big wooded area next to Walmart, full of homeless people. They're all the drug addicts and the people that were stealing in our neighborhood live in there, and they go back and forth. There was a house on Merritt Street. Well, the house on Merritt Street got torn down. They're not on there anymore. Well, Ron, within, a week, had all the trees lopped inside of the wooded area over there, kind of like they did on Beggs Lane when they cleaned all that mess up over that way. They went in there and cleaned out. There's nobody in there. There's still some trash in there, but all those homeless people are gone. And they just move on like rats. They just go to the next place, you know? And I still continue to follow them all. And I ran into Michael Bishop and Nick and all these other guys several times at night. Most of the time they take off and run the woods, but I called you guys. You guys would show up, look around for them, but they got annoyed. They got so tired of being in the neighborhood, and then the house behind me, one of the drug houses, is now not a drug house anymore, which has really shut it down. I mean, I still go out, not as much, because I just randomly go out at night, and it has gotten so much better in the neighborhood, but it's still out there. We also had a house on Sunset over the bridge that did garage sales. I quickly caught on to, because like I said, I was following these guys around. I quickly caught on to what they were doing. They were fencing stuff over there. And then that person, you know, he'd buy an e-bike for $100 off one of these guys and turn around and sell it for $500 out of his trailer that was in his front yard. And you guys all probably know which house that is. I confronted him. And I told him, I said, and I, you know, some of them might know the story, but I told him, I said, look, the sheriff's department's watching you, I'm watching you, there's cameras watching you. Guess what? That weekend, and I got it on video, I can take the whole thing. They have not had a garage sale at that house since, and it's been at least 2 months. And all those people that were hanging out there are gone, because I think they told them, get out. I can't get in trouble, you know, they're on to us. But I think, kind of like what you're saying, I think if we all put it out there on social media and just keep hounding, every time you see someone come in that neighborhood, put it out there. You know where they're at. I mean, we had some people living in some of the alleys we had to deal with, the road department, getting them kicked out of there. Every time they come in, we just have to keep pouncing on it and push them back out. But I think, like you said, that sometimes we come to these meetings and I stop coming for a while, because then we start talking about cats and stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm not here for, like, I'm here for the crime, not the cats. You know,
Yeah, like, I mean,
you know, it just, you know, and I think the lady that was, Mrs.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that was helpful, because that to me is part of the crime, is the blight and the trash and all. I think that is actually a big part of it, and once you clean up the area, things start getting better and people care more. But I think, I personally think, I don't think we really need to have to come here every, you know, Monday, once a month. I think if we met at the other place, or just mainly being online and just pushing it out there, everything constantly, really kind of stops a lot of it.
No, good points, but I know we may be tabling this program for another month. One thing that we've talked about before is having more activities within Navy Point, not necessarily neighborhood watch. I see now we have Triangle Park meetings about monthly. Maybe we can have a neighborhood watch sub-meeting during that thing where we can get together, and we'll have other members of the community there for something less complicated, and just have like a 10-minute discussion about what's going on and things like that. So
Well, those discussions happen, and they're, you know, and I bring it up, and there have been a lot of problems, because I'll be there, you know, make sure you can email them, and they don't. And look, life gets busy, I understand that. You know, again, it's
know, I will tell you that some of the previous presidents, the term of office was 2 years.
Yeah, you tried selling me on that.
Ted,
I
you
have a
should,
question for
you
you
should
guys.
not feel pressured to do it
No,
if you don't wanna,
it's
if you
but also-
don't wanna do it. I think everybody would want you to stay, but you've put twice into it what most people do in a year, and
You know,
it's been a lot of
I
work.
would, if we can, you know, there's, you know, this Saturday, there's, you know, the market in the park.
Well, this fall, there's something there
There
probably
will be a lot
every other
going on.
week at least.
But if we could commit to, you know, what do we want this to be, it will benefit, and it might, maybe it's only winter, maybe it's, you know, maybe we talk to, you know, St. John's, see if we can use there, something where people can ride their bike and walk and take their golf cart instead of having to get in their car, you know, maybe it's, you know,
I think if you had it in the park and maybe,
You know,
in Triangle Park, people would show up, because people are constantly commenting when something happens. There's a lot of people all over it,
you know,
and I think if you just had it right there, say, hey, we're here in the park, come up. I
coffee in
think
the
a lot
park,
more
you know,
people
Saturday
should
morning or
show up.
something, you know.
What we normally see with neighborhood watches is the membership that shows up at your meetings is not indicative of how many people are actually participating.
I agree with you.
There are a lot of people that say, I'm too busy, I don't wanna go to a meeting, but they'll pick up the phone and call and spread the word. So that's the thing that we see.
May I ask you two quick questions?
Yeah.
We had two gentlemen, one is Michael Austin Bishop, and we had another guy named Nick, and I still don't know his last name, but both have been picked up or arrested in the last couple months, and they're both out.
We
When
have
you look
met-
at their charges, sometimes some of it says no bond, does that mean they can't get out? Like they're
Yes,
being
no
held?
bond means they can't get out.
How come Michael Austin Bishop would be out then a week
That's-
after he got picked up?
That's up to a judge. They go to a bond reduction hearing
Okay,
within 48 hours of being arrested.
cause it just
If
seems
the
like.
judge sets the bond,
Yeah.
they can get out.
It seems like we're doing all this work to catch them, and I mean, I handed Nick to you guys about a month ago.
It's frustrating to us to see
And then he's
people out on the
It's
street
like,
that
how
we
is this
arrest.
happening?
But the problem is the justice system, the sheriff's office isn't involved in that part at all. We arrest them. When it goes to court, that's the judicial system.
Yeah.
That's totally separate from us.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job, and I've seen a lot more of your officers coming to the neighborhood, I mean, it has gotten better, but that part is really
The
discouraging.
sheriff gets
These
frustrated.
guys-
At one time, when we had a homicide, the sheriff would do a information, on a press release of how many times they were arrested before they committed a
Yeah.
homicide.
Oh,
And some of
yeah.
these guys had criminal rap sheets that were a mile long.
The average is about 28 previous arrests.
Yeah,
before
cause the
the
guy
murder.
that ended up catching Michael coming out of his house that went out out off Fairfield, he got him coming out of the house and he had his way with him, and I feel like if this keeps happening, that kind of stuff is gonna happen more and more.
That's not anything we have any control
Yeah.
over. We arrest
Yeah.
them, we have a bond schedule that's set by the chief judge based on what the charges are. We cannot exceed that. And then when they go to a bond reduction hearing, a judge can actually say, I'm gonna let you sign your own bond and get out.
Okay, but if somebody, like my neighbor pressed charges against that Nick kid, we had him on video, that he literally went in the
Right.
garage, so it was a beanie. They got him, but my neighbor has never been contacted. because
That's the
he's
state
not
attorney's
pressed
office. Once we arrest them, the case is out of our hands.
So all we do is we cage them, and I'm not
Yeah,
saying
I know.
as an alibi of somebody else's job, but it's like the limits of our authority
Okay.
is to arrest them and charge them. But then
All we do is we arrest them.
We have no influence on what happens after that, except if it goes to court, to trial. Well, then we show up and we say, hey, this is why we arrested them, and let's give them a,
So who
goes
could we
through.
contact to voice our opinion on that?
Try to call the state's attorney, but we don't
Yeah, I was
comment
gonna say
on
state.
it.
Yes, they won't comment on what they do.
Sure.
The problem you have is the chief judge for each judicial circuit sets the applicable bonds, because you're guaranteed under the Constitution the right to a reasonable bond. There are certain charges like domestic violence that don't have a bond. However, when they go to court, a judge can set a bond on it. The judge can reduce the bond. And it's frustrating when you arrest somebody for beating up their wife, but you put a no bond on it. The next morning they go to court and the judge says, I'm gonna let you out on a $5,000 bond. So that's $500 to a bail bondsman and they're out.
And then there's lots of parts of this country where it's, you know, cashless, no, you just get arrested, you get booked, and you walk back out.
We don't have that here.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'll ever see that here. But like I said, all we can do is arrest them. Once we've charged them, it's up to the state attorney on what happens for it.
Yeah.
I will tell you, sometimes state attorneys don't want to go to court, so they'll let them plea bargain.
Yeah.
And I disagree with that, because I've arrested people that needed to go to prison,
Yeah.
and I went to court just to have the judge slap them on the wrist and turn them loose.
I've had a conversation with several people about this whole situation, and they all keep saying, yeah, they just let him, and when they say they mean you guys, they think you guys just let him out.
No, it's not us.
No, he was in handcuffs, he got arrested. So-
We take them to jail, we set their bond, which we, like I said, we have a bond chart we have to go by.
Yeah.
And it depends on the degree of felony or misdemeanor that the crime is. We can't exceed that.
Okay.
And then a judge has the right to either raise the bond or lower the bond. And very seldom is a judge gonna raise the bond. So, you know, I've seen judges say, okay, I put a $10,000 bond on something, the judge, I'm gonna let you sign yourself out of jail. And I think that's wrong, but there's nothing I can do about it.
So as frustrating it is for us, it's even worse for you guys.
Yes. And then we go to court and testify, and the judge gives them probation.
I second the motion that Bill made about tabling it for one more month, and then we can make the decision.
Well, I'm
Well,
saying
if you're
table
gonna
it
make a
till June.
decision in a month from now, you need to have the president of the group a month from now. So you're gonna have to tell me who that's gonna be.
I'm saying table it till January. We give it, and if you'll stay in office, I'm not trying to pressure you.
No, I understand.
But because we're not gonna schedule any other meetings, because we've got a ton of them in Triangle Park. We got the sheriff coming for the TV, movie night or whatever. So we got a lot of things coming. And in January, we'll hold an election, and if we don't have anybody and they still want it, then we're gonna have to find places in Navy Point or
Yep.
other things, which will give these guys a break
Yeah.
from coming and babysitting.
I won't know
us-
what a break is.
babysitting
We don't
us
get a
up here.
break.
They'll
But
find something, if I'm not here, they'll find something else for me to do.
babysitting us here, so, and we do appreciate you guys religiously coming and taking care of us, so.
But I will tell you that if you do move to another place and then after the crime spree.
We ain't coming back here.
Well,
It's not that, we're not saying that. The problem
Say that's a
is,
possibility.
the problem is, if you're in the military, you know that if you take land, you don't give the land back. Because if you give it back, you're gonna have to take it again, and it's gonna be harder the
But
next
there,
time.
there are options, whether it's the
Yeah.
church or Lexington Terrace, and, you know, that Lexington Terrace, you gotta get the key and.
Yeah.
I would never recommend disbanding.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been
Right.
doing this 45 years in law enforcement. I've been involved in crime prevention for the last 14, 15 years. So I never would recommend disbanding.
So I'm saying the motion is tabling this.
Ted,
And-
do you want that?
No, I mean, I will do
Are
it
you willing
through the
to-
committee, I'll do it.
'cause-
He's a big boy, Melissa.
Well,
No,
Bill,
You know, when you talk
Bill-
about his benefit,
ACUA.
you never attended until he
Guys,
came.
guys, guys.
You
The
came to
reason-
certain meetings,
I'm-
and I can't really give you what I want
Bill.
because this is a public building,
Bill.
but
For the neighborhood,
reason I'm
yes.
asking him is I talked to him about this before the meeting, Bill,
Yes, so I
and he
will,
said he did not.
neighborhood watch anyway. On the record.
so, yeah, I mean, I'd like to have a conversation. You're my tool, yes.
No,
I'm
not.
You are.
Mike John Smith.
So I take it y'all tabled it till,
Yeah,
Okay.
they would love for you to be.
just so we'll know,
So you're still chair?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
we just need to know if we're supposed to be here or not.
No,
And by the way, the reason why, if you went somewhere else to meet and then wanted to come back, why it would come up, we'd have to ask, is that we have, heard requests for other people
No,
to
yeah.
use other precincts or
Yeah.
whatever. So this is something special we do for you.
Get it?
And we can't really make a good argument for why we do it for you, but we won't do it for
Got
others. However, if you wanna keep coming here, keep meeting here, we'll keep showing up, and we don't have a problem with that.
Appreciate
Okay?
it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.